Ah, yes, it seems the pixel is actually cooperating. The last time I tried to record a video on this phone, and sorry for the echo, I'm uh, I'm in the workout room, so it's pretty much the only place right now where I can record, and because it's cold out. Well, it's not cold outside now, but there's still snow and whatnot out. And who knows? It's Minnesota when it decides it wants to be warm and when it wants to be cold. So, yeah. For this video, what I want to do is I want to talk about the Xiaomi 13 Ultra's camera, right? And kind of detail how I use it, what modes I use, what to look out for, things like that, right? So, what better way to do that than to detail the physical cameras? I know that's a stupid thing to say, but you have four 50 megapixel cameras. You have your 1-inch type IMX 989, which is your main sensor, right? That has a dual stage aperture f1.9 to f4. You may wonder what benefit does having a variable aperture or a two-stage aperture on a phone give you. Obviously, when you stop down the aperture, it reins in light acquisition, so it lowers the amount of light that you could take in. But it also helps keep clarity in certain aspects. Say if you want a more defined photo with your main subject, it'll cut down on a lot of light information and cut down on things like, say, bokeh acquisition. And it'll make it to where, yeah, your background's not as blurry, but your main subject can be more clear and have less issues with things like the subject itself having focus fall off on it. So there are benefits there, and when you do stop down to f4, the background blur tends to look like most phones on the market. But when you have it at f1.9, whew, that's all I got to say there is whew. You have things like a authentic, which I can't really like a authentic and like a vibrant. I shoot in like a authentic all the time. I never really shoot in like a vibrant. The only time I did was when I was testing out things like, say, just how it looked. And like authentic tends to be where I stay. And the main reason for that is I overall just like the look. There is in the auto mode, there is a lot of vignetting. Well, not a lot, but a good amount of vignetting in the corners. If you don't like that, what I would advise you do is go in the 50 megapixel mode. Well, not the 50 megapixel mode, the pro mode. And all that vignetting goes away. It's no longer there. Or just after the fact, go into your photo editor. The Xiaomi's gallery app is a very good editor. You go in there and just reverse the vignetting, and you won't really have that issue. But for me, what I really do like is the overall package of this phone. Like all four cameras being the same megapixel count. They're not obviously the same size. That would make the camera bump on this phone gigantic if they all were 1-inch type sensors. But overall, they have the same processing. They all have Leica processing on them. And the main reason I use the pro mode over, say, going into here and using the the 50 megapixel mode that's right here is when you do the regular 50 megapixel mode, you don't get the Leica looks at all. It's just a flat look. And while that could be nice if you just want to go in and just edit a photo and have it look completely like yours, I like the Leica processing on here. So that's something that I feel is kind of a drawback, but at least when you're in the pro mode, you can always have it in 50 megapixels. The drawback to having it always in 50 megapixels is that you can't crop zoom in the pro mode. So basically what you got to do is just take a picture, and when you take that picture, you just pinch the zoom there, and you can get a lot of resolution to work with there, and it works very well. It works very well. A couple of things. Obviously, when you swipe left and right on the screen, obviously right now I'm doing up and down because of the orientation, but when you swipe left and right on the screen, you switch your modes. When you want to get into the pro video mode, you hit that video icon right there, and it goes into that. And as you can see, I'm at 4K 60 and Dolby Vision. And also when you're in this, you can't zoom either. It's not going to tell you, but while you're recording, you can't zoom either. So that's something that you're going to have to deal with. But it'll tell you here, you're in 50 megapixel mode, you can't zoom. You also can't get RAW files when you're in 50 megapixel mode either. So the moment you switch into it, oh no, you can. Actually, you can. What happens though is that all these sensors can't do 50 megapixels and RAW. So say you want your 3.2x zoom lens, or I guess technically 70 millimeter zoom lens, but you want a RAW file. You can't get that RAW file and also be in 50 meg mode. So you're gonna have to pick and choose there. So typically what I do is I just keep it in the 50 megapixel mode, because honestly, I think you could just work with editing that way and not really have any sort of issues when it comes to, like, say, losing any sort of detail. Because a lot of the times when you sit there and edit a JPEG, you lose a lot of detail. So you can lose not a lot, but you lose some detail depending on the phone, especially when it's a phone that relies a lot on things like software processing, say like a Google Pixel or something like that, which funnily enough I'm recording on. But yeah, in the pro mode here, you switch from f1.9 to f4, and it'll tell you stay in f1.9 when you're in lower light, so you can get more light on, so the sensor can take in more light. But obviously, when it comes to things like the pro mode, you're using it, you know how to use it. If you can manipulate things like your ISO and your shutter speed pretty damn well, you don't really have to worry about that, especially if you're trying to get a certain look. So that's something that you're going to have to pick and choose for yourself, obviously. And here you have your Leica filters, pretty nice, so that you don't have to sit there after the fact and edit them. So that's actually pretty good. I'm trying to get out of here. You have your autofocus. You go into here, you switch to manual focus. One thing I don't like is that you turn on focus peaking, you leave the app, focus peaking doesn't stay on. So that's something, and you can't have focus peaking and, where's the other one? Exposure verification on at the same time, which I know most cameras don't allow you to do, but that's something, if that's something you're worried about, that's something you can't do here. But overall, and another thing, I do kind of wish you could change the color of what the focus peaking is. It's red here. I wish you could turn to like something like green. Say you're in like a bright situation, red kind of is difficult to see sometimes, depending on your eyes, obviously. But for me personally, I do feel like it would be nice to get that. Also, I don't really like this menu. I really do wish they would find a way to make this menu a little bit more, like, a little bit more easy to get to. Because right here, it's fine because I'm in landscape. When it's in portrait, well, I'll just show you guys here. You have to swipe down, pick it, tap, and then you got to figure it out. And sometimes the swipe doesn't work. You're handling it a little bit weird, right? So you might end up switching modes and stuff like that. So that's something that I feel is a little bit of an issue. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something I do want to bring up. You have your photographic style right here. So you could adjust your tone, your tonality, which is your white balance essentially, your texture, which add some sharpening to the photo. Your tonality is basically contrast. So the more you go this way, the more contrast you get. The more you go this way, the less you get. And the brighter the image gets, basically. Not, let me see, before I say something stupid. Yeah, as you can see, the brighter it goes, the more contrast you get here too. And that looks more, and that makes it look more akin to what it would look like in the regular auto mode. But as you can see here, the texture, you go all the way 50 here, it's all the way sharpened. You go all the way 50 here, it's a little bit more soft. I do actually want to try and test that a little bit more tomorrow to see what that looks like. I never really did, but yeah. It's really nice to have this. I would always advise you not to go full 50 when it comes to the texture, because when you do zoom in on a photo, even at 50 megapixels, it can look a bit fuzzy. It can look a little too crispy and a little too processed. So that's something that I do feel is a little bit off, but that's kind of what it is, right? It adds sharpening. So if you go all the way if you go all the way with the sharpening, that's just what it's gonna do. The other modes. I haven't really used most of these. Today, I did use long exposure a bit. Well, I guess technically yesterday. Supermoon, I've used a bit mainly to compare with just like going with the 5x telephoto with the 50 megapixel mode and the pro mode, stopping down the shutter speed and ISO and the exposure a little bit, and just zooming in like that. And just comparing it that way. I used to have the 50 megapixel mode in the carousel, but I took it out because I just always shoot in 50 megapixel mode and the 50 megapixels in the pro mode, so it really doesn't make sense to have it. And the night mode I don't ever use, because when you're in auto mode, as you can see, it automatically turns on. And you tap that, it'll turn off, but the indicator will stay there, so you can turn it back on. And it's just always there. And obviously you see you have Google Lens right next to your flash. But overall, you also get the filters right here as well in the auto mode, which is nice. But overall, I think this camera is the camera system on this phone is very quality. I've showed you guys already what photos look like from this phone, but in terms of what this phone can do, it's insane, man. It's really insane. Like, I don't think the Pixel is doing a good enough job at showing it, but the amount of detail that you can get, you see my jewel in the background right next to the Monster rehab can. Like, every photo, and this is an f4, whereas this is an f1.9. So as you guys can see, it's far more blurred out in the background right there. As compared to here, you can definitely see it says revive right there, whereas here, you can't read it at all. And obviously you have things like your portrait mode and whatnot as well. I think I'll just show you guys that here. So you go into here, and what happens is you get your Leica lens master system, right? And you switch between these, and it gives you, depending on the lens that you decide to use, it'll switch to that lens, the phone's the camera that it will obviously use for that. And overall, I do feel like they're nice, but the key issue that I have with it is that you can't shoot at full resolution with them. So what ends up happening for me is that what I do instead is I shoot in the pro mode, I shoot in full 50 megapixels, and say I want to add a portrait filter on, right? Obviously right here, what you can do is you can remove the watermark if you want. I mainly have it on there for like comparison purposes, but you can remove the watermark and it's off. So I'll just do that here. You go into the AI, you go into the bokeh. And as you guys can see, what happens here is that the phone does a very good job, especially when you shoot in especially when you shoot without going into a portrait mode, and when you're shooting with the main sensor in particular, it does a very good job at having a good level of depth with the the focus, even when you're doing things like using this. And I'll say that the detection, albeit not perfect a lot of the time, especially if you just go full 100%, it can be a little bit weird. It's actually very nice. And the benefit to this over, say, what Google does is that this isn't in the cloud. This is all on device. So you don't have to worry about, say, being connected to the internet to be on Google Photos and able to even utilize any of these features. It's all on device. So you can do this, have a very clean looking photo, right? And I guess what I'll do, and as you guys can see, it obviously doesn't fully affect absolutely everything in the frame. A lot of the times it does, but I guess I'll just stay with the regular circle. I'll go to, like, let's say 60%, 61, whatever. I'll stay at 60%. I'll apply it. I'll go into, say, an AI art framing. This is the one I tend to use a lot. And as you guys can see, the colors come up a little bit weird on the pixel. It doesn't look that bad here. But as you guys, look at how nice that looks. That just looks so nice. And you guys can obviously see a comparison there. Zoom back in, and boom, you get that. I'm gonna save that. What I'm gonna do now is, say you wanna go into a filter here. Typically the filter I use is the radiance filter. So that's why I tend to have it just saved. And that just looks pretty damn nice there. You could obviously adjust it if you don't want it to be. What I would advise you to do, actually, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go take that off. Okay. Go back to the basic, go to filters, hit the radiance. Save it, go back to AI, go to art framing, go here, zoom in. That way it doesn't affect the frame too. That's something I wish it didn't do. But look at that, that's fucking, like, that's so cool. And I've done this a couple of times. So what I'll do, let me go to my gallery here real quick. Let me go to, I guess I'll show. Okay, so this is a selfie I took with the rear camera, right? And this is what it looks like when I did a few edits. But let me show you a picture of the same cat that I did. A couple of them, actually. So look here. And then the same, it looks a little bit funky. The pixel's not really doing it justice. I'm gonna be honest here. But honestly, to me, let me try something here. Because now what I can do is I could adjust the white balance while recording on the Pixel 7a. That is nice. That is nice to me. Hey Google, good job. Really good job there. Oh God. I have Google Gemini, right? But yeah, that's good. So let me find the one that I actually like quite a bit. So this is one that I did, right? And this is the this is all the edits that this is all the edits that I did to it too, and now it actually looks like the photo from the Pixel. Good, good. But yeah, it's like I said, you know what you're doing with this. You learn this system. You're gonna have a good time. You're gonna have a good time with it. I don't know why I'm going as an accent, but you're gonna have a good time with it. And honestly, for me, I really do feel like Xiaomi knocked it out in the park in a lot of aspects. What I really hope to see, I'm not gonna talk about 14 Ultra yet. I'll do that in a different video. But honestly, for me, I really do feel like this is a pretty damn good package when it comes to its camera. It doesn't take that much to learn, especially if you're just shooting full auto and you're satisfied with it. It's not a big deal to use it at all. It's not like a hard, intimidating camera to use in full auto. You don't have to go into the manual mode. And if you want a fully unprocessed 50 megapixel image from any of those sensors, you could just use that regular 50 megapixel mode. But for here, this phone is special, man, and I'll get into that in a different video when I talk about my overall thoughts after using it for so long. This is Sparta. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, whatever time of day it is in your area. Like the video. If you like it, share with people that are interested, and have a good one.